and they use a new idea and they use a new concept. And I love that innovation. So to me, that was memorable for me. And it relates to my entrepreneurship world. It reminds me, my God, a single person can change the whole entire game.
What's the blueprint for a great story?
I believe that a great story makes you feel inspired to do something great at the end of the movie, depending on the genre. You're not gonna do it with a horror film, but maybe the horror film inspires you to do a horror film, right? But it needs to emotionally engage with you. That's the blueprint for it. I don't think there should be rules around making a movie, but I feel like you need to have the right people, the right team, and the right mindset to allow yourself to have that opportunity to tell the best story you can tell within your limitations. So blueprint, make it as emotional and impactful you can when the movie's over. I'm surprised that when I did Walk Before Mickey and the Bezos movie, and that I had good feedback out of it. I also know there's bad feedback out of it, right? Just like any other movie too. But one moment I came was when it was in the theaters in Disney, was that a family would come out in tears. And they asked me, "Are you the director of it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why are you in tears?" I said, "Sorry." And they said, "Khoa, my family is going through a lot of things, and it's this simple concept of not giving up actually really matters." And it reminded me to not give up on my own family and blah, blah, blah. And just recently, like I was at a job last year in Disney. He said, I thought I stole something, and it was a security guard that came up to me and says, "Hey, are you the one that did the Disney film?" I said it wasn't a Disney film, but it's the Walk Before Mickey about Disney. And he goes, I want to let you know I've always wanted to meet you. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice of you." But you know what? It validates to me that we did something right, And I don't think you're gonna know that in the beginning of it, but I do know that if you did kind of create that effect at the end, after the movie's over, that you did something right. And I don't know if that is a blueprint, but I do know that is a recipe to a success.
What's the Khoa way of telling a story?
I think for me, it's inspiration. It's my way of telling the story is leading, from a technical side of things, leading a team that's inspired to want to tell that story. And from a storytelling side of things, it's being in the mindset that is this moving the story forward to a place of change and to something that's inspiring. That's a short answer. I think that's a very simple approach, and that's why every single movie that I've done, everything's a biopic movie. They're all inspirational, supposedly.
Jose Feliciano,
Vanilla Ice, Walt, and Bezos. They're all in the biopics. It's like they kind of kept landing in my lap, and it's like, and I kept saying yes to taking those type of projects.
How do you know if a story is working?
When you don't yawn.
But you're up till 4 a.m. working. You might be tired.
I think it's not working when it's too predictable. I think that's like death to a film. Like I feel like if you could, it's these projects that I have are predictable projects, and I know that they're linear stories, and to me it is what it is, But for me personally, it doesn't work when I am bored with it line, it's, you know, if I'm yawning at a line or something like that, I was like, oh my God, that's how I know it's not working. So I like to work on projects that are, or I like to work on something of a project that is unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
Do you think, though, you become bored with it after you've seen like several cuts of it, or even then it stays fresh for you? If it's good, if it's compelling.
I think well, first, let's backtrack a little bit. If we're going to the editing world of it, assembly edits are like the worst nightmares for me, right? Like the first cuts are like the worst. Tweaking it, getting it to the point of that, it's actually really difficult for me. So I rely on my brain going to do a refresh somehow, playing a lot of video games, not looking at it. It's that, and then coming back to it. If I continue to yawn again at a certain portion of it, I know it's not working. You know, but again, you know, I had that quite a few times for my own films, many times for that, and there's no way you could fix it because there's no budget to fix that stuff.
What types of stories excite you the most?
Baseball stories, sports stories, and music stories.
So Moneyball.
Yes.
Things like that.
Field of Dreams is my biggest movie. Field of Dreams.
What about music stories?
I would say, like, you know, Amadeus was a good one for me. You know, there's not many of them, but I would say like the Whitney Houston one was a really good one. Ray.
Sure. Okay. 8 Mile.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where did you watch Field of Dreams for the first time?
I watched that in my parents' bedroom on VCR.
And when the credits were rolling, what did it inspire you to do?
No, you know what? I'm not good with names. You know, so I just knew that I wanted to. I go outside with my glove and I just play catch by myself. I didn't have people to play catch with, so I would just throw the ball against the wall. But that's what inspired me to do that stuff, just to play games, just to play the baseball game.
But you remember it today as one of...
Yeah, you know why? Because it's a movie that inspired me to want to do something in my life, and that was baseball. You know, it's like, you know, you put the glove in your face, they described how the grass smells and everything, and it's like, oh my God, it's that, you know? You know what I mean? My dad wasn't around so much because he worked a lot. But when he was around, I remember those things. So when you see that between father and son type of thing, I never really played catch with my dad, but being to have that idea that I could have done that or doing that or wish to have that is memorable for me, you know, and that to me is very inspiring.
And what about Moneyball? How does that inspire you?
You know what? I love the art of negotiations, and that was how they traded players. I like the dynamics. To me, what that made me feel was that a single person changed the whole entire game. You know, like they weren't using stats back then. Moneyball, right? You're taking one of the worst teams in baseball and turn them into, you know, like the chances of them to make the playoffs was like almost was slim to none. They use stats and they use a new idea and they use a new concept, and I love that innovation. So to me, that was memorable for me, and it relates to my entrepreneurship world. It reminds me, my God, a single person can change the whole entire game. That's what it is.
What have your movies taught you about stories?
Well, the movies I've done, when it comes to storytelling, it's worth doing it, no matter what the situation is. It gets, if you have a chance to touch someone's heart, like one person at a time, and do your story, that, for me, through my stories, then it was all worth it. I fall in love with it all the time. Every time I make a movie, it's like entrepreneurship and all that type of stuff. There's nothing that goes. You can't even compare it to it. The feeling of it when it comes to storytelling. I'm not the best filmmaker. I know that, but I want to strive to become a really good filmmaker and be able to touch the world somehow, And I feel like the opportunities are there to do that, but I felt like as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, you're so limited on the restrictions that are put in place. And that annoys me like crazy. And I feel like I want story to be king. I don't want budget to be king. And I want to be in a place that, we don't have to worry about the budget, and that we could take our time, be artful, and tell that story. I was sitting next to Gloria Estefan because, Emilia Estefan was in the Bezos movie. And Gloria goes, so how's it, what was it like to do this? Did you have fun? I said, Gloria, it was work. It was, I wish I was actually an artist on the movie. She laughed. I said, why? It goes, because I get to have 2 to 3 takes with these actors. I don't get that many takes with them before I had to make these setups. I'm doing 36 to 45 setups a day, like wall to wall. There's no B units, and you're just constantly working and jamming it in. And you want to be artful. You want to tell this great story, and that it's so hard to do it because you're in these restrictions. And so, filmmaking for me is these low budget projects that I get to do, tells me that there's so much more to be had when you get there. But it's so rare to get those opportunities. So is it worth it? Absolutely yes. And that's what it taught me, is that, you get to still, even no matter what kind of budget it is, you get to still have an opportunity to touch someone's heart. And that's worth the effort.
You say the rough cut is just a really difficult time for you to either be sitting in the edit bay or the editor. How many cuts in do you start to see the story and relax a little bit and go, this is good, I like this?
The third edit, usually, my experience. So the editor that Bezos, he was the original Rocky editor, and Edward Scissorhands and stuff. So they were really good. So they knew how to get their first cuts in, and they were okay, and they put it in a decent place in the beginning. But me being able to work with inexperienced editors, usually that's like a mess, and it takes about a good 3rd to 4th edit before it gets there,
But Bezos was different.
Bezos was different because you're working with people that's, that has they're very successful in the business already.